Towards domestic utilization of Nigeria's gas resources, President Buhari unveils National Gas Expansion Program.
We are confident that the Auto Gas Initiative will lead to increased domestic gas utilization.
Following increased insecurity in the country, Senate calls for exit of service chiefs.
Enough of any excuses. People who have little or nothing to add should be shown the way out.
$25 million Nigerians to benefit from federal government's solar energy expansion program.
Once you have electricity, once you take power to our communities, then you are encouraging economic growth.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on tackling the resurgence of insecurity in the country.
Federal government is surely going to step up its action against the insurgents.
Insecurity has become a hydra-headed monster in Nigeria. It seems that when one head is cut off, many others spring up in its place. And this obviously is unfortunate as incidents of kidnapping, wanton killing, banditry and armed robbery are increasing across the country despite government's efforts to tackle them. Sadly, ordinary citizens as well as the nation's economic resources are always at the receiving end of these acts, as traveling along many routes in Nigeria has become a nightmare due to the presence of bandits and kidnappers along some of these highways. One of the most recent acts of insurgency was the killing of no fewer than 43 farmers on rice fields in Zabamari village, that's in Borno State, and that took place on Saturday. Boko Haram has claimed responsibility for that cold-blooded incident. Now, while expressing grief over it, President Muhammadu Buhari promptly sent a delegation to sympathize with families of the victims, the government, and people of Borno State. And after attending the funeral of the farmers, Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum said that the people in the region were facing hard choices as they strove to survive. And talking about the struggle between staying at home, which is not possible for fear of hunger and starvation, and a risk of getting killed by insurgents if they went to their farmlands to work. Now, the House of Reps has passed a resolution condemning the killings, calling for a state of emergency to be declared on the security sector while the government re-strategizes its current tactics against insecurity. The Senate is also calling on the President to initiate processes that will see to the exit of the current security chiefs, as well as recruit some 10,000 civilian joint task forces in Borno into the various security agencies and restructuring and remodeling the nation's entire security architecture. President Buhari has since given marching orders to the country's armed forces to take the fight to the enclave of the insurgents to eliminate the remnants. Now, what impact would government's renewed commitment have on addressing the rising security challenges in the country? And what kind of overhaul does Nigeria's security architecture need to deal with insurgency and indeed other forms of criminality? We will address those issues and more on Good Morning Nigeria this Wednesday. We also have a second topic, and that topic, of course, will be dealing with pension for the elderly. That's to say that the healthcare system that will be extended to the elderly in the country. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and it's on that note that we'd like to welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. As always, we are broadcasting live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. In the course of the program, we have our regular companion segments, and those include newspaper review, business, and others. I'm solo in the meantime. I hope that my colleague will join me in the course of the program. Let's now go over to Blessing Abu, another regular face on Good Morning Nigeria, to give us the highlights of the morning news.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the morning news. Now, Nigeria being a major player in the global oil and gas industry, this Tuesday takes a step further in effective utilization of the natural resources as President Muhammadu Buhari unveils the National Auto Gas Rollout Initiative, which is a core deliverable of the National Gas Expansion Program. The Autogas Rollout event, as the president says, signifies the realization of government's commitment to ensure the domestic utilization of the nation's vast gas resources, which currently stands at over 2 trillion cubic feet.
To increase domestic gas utilization and enrich the trajectory of national economic growth and development. I therefore encourage everyone to embrace gas in form of LPG, CNG, and LNG as an alternative fuel for autos and other prime movers.
The Senate has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to immediately initiate processes that will see to the exit of the current service chiefs. This is a sequel to a motion of urgent public importance by Senator Kashim Shettima, which also urged the federal government to probe the management of funds in the military.
People who have little or nothing to add should be shown the way out. People who have the capacity, the wherewithal, but probably lack the resources, will make the resources available.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has passed a resolution condemning the killing of more than 40 farmers last Saturday on rice fields in Borno State.
Despite the billions in resources, and despite the giant strides and spirited efforts of the federal government, and the countless lives lost, we still are at the mercy of murderers who offer only the promise of death.
Away from that, the federal government is engaging the services of expatriates in areas with short supply of requisite professional manpower to manage critical sectors of the nation's economy, which will be premised on a mutually beneficial condition. Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, was speaking during the inauguration of 9 members committee expected to carry out monitoring and enforcement of the new order.
Policy on the culture quota and business permit will not only generate employment and revenue, it usually produces desired result of ensuring that our best is done in providing employment opportunity for our teeming youth.
25 million Nigerians are to benefit from the federal government's solar energy expansion program. This program is expected to increase access to electricity, boost local content, and create jobs.
This is a wonderful initiative by the federal government of Nigeria. This is going to encourage economic development, because once you have electricity, once you take power to our communities, then you are encouraging economic growth.
And to some health matters, there are some 281 new cases of COVID-19 have been announced by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC. These 281 new infections increased the total number of confirmed cases to 67,838 in the country. And in the breakdown, Lagos has 123, the Federal Capital Territory has 64, Kaduna 38, Imo 15, Rivers 11, Plateau has 8, Ogun 5, Bayelsa and Kwara recorded 4 each. Bauchi, Edo and Kano have 2, while Osun confirmed 1 new case. Lagos maintains the lead of total number of cases per state with 23,410 cases. The Federal Capital Territory follows with 6,868 cases, while Plateau is next with 3,877 cases. 3,323 cases are currently active, with recovered and discharged 63,430 patients. 1,176 deaths on record. And that's the morning news highlights. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll be back in a moment after this break. Good morning.
A scorecard like no other. Government has put in place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our society. These included broad plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. The creation of 75 billion naira National Youth Investment Fund to provide opportunities for the youths, and the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survivor Fund, through which government is A. Paying 3-month salaries of the staff of 100,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. B. Paying for the registration of 250,000 businesses at the Corporate Affairs Commission. C. Giving a grant of 30,000 naira to 100,000 artisans and guaranteeing market for the product of traders. These are in addition to many other initiatives such as farmer money, trader money, market money, N-Power, N-Tech, and N-Agro. These and more in spite of a recession and a global pandemic.
Do you know that social media is not good or bad, and that it is you who is using it that is either good or bad? Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, verify the information, and reflect before sharing it. Now, are you a good social media user? Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source for a better Nigeria.
This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
You don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Cup after cup. Morning after morning. Start strong. Finish strong. It all starts with a Nescafe.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for business news, and here is our correspondent, Ronami Egirani.
Developing the e-commerce ecosystem and growing small businesses in Nigeria is of paramount importance to the federal government. This has resulted in the engagement of key stakeholders in the system and the creation of a think tank that includes the Commodities and Export Department as well as the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. This latest development also allows for a smooth takeoff of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which has already been ratified by Nigeria. And the stock market continues to climb with a second day of gains this week as all-share index closed at 35,147.62 points, a 0.30% increase from Monday's 35,042.14 points. It is not all good news, however, as the volume and value of total trades made declined about 25% and 29% respectively, closing the day at 308.1 million trades with a total value of 3.4 billion naira. With business news, I'm Ronami Egirani.
Many thanks, Ronami, for the business news on Good Morning Nigeria. Coming up next is Newspaper Review. All right, our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoye, based right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much. Kinsley, good morning. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good to see you. Two papers we're having this morning, New Telegraph and The Punch. Let's begin by taking a look at the window page of New Telegraph. And expected, the stories there include those on insecurity. The lead story says, Senate to Buhari, that's the kicker, sack service chiefs. And reps summon president over security challenges. Oshibajo, that's the vice president, federal government will consider new ideas to tackle insecurity. And Northeast governors back Zulum on mercenaries deployment. And there's another story there on the front page about police recruitment, and it says 925 successful candidates didn't apply. That's the second list story there on the front page. Police recruitment. 925 successful candidates did not apply, and that's been attributed to the Police Service Commission. Make lists without undergoing screening and medical examination. Apparently, 925 smuggled in, they didn't apply, they got in, and now they've been fished out. Okay, let's also take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper. Punch, this time above the nameplate. And from there, we come straight down to the foot of the paper. It will be cheaper to run gas-fired vehicles. That's according to the federal government, with details at page 19. Reps to probe alleged fraud in IPPIS, query minister and official. That's page 9. Restructuring will ensure nation building and departure from over-centralization. That story is according to El Rufai, governor of Kaduna State. 2 COVID-19 vaccines under trial have 90% efficacy, says federal government. Page 9. And then 2 earpieces there beside the nameplate. Senate confirms Yakubu renomination as INEC chair. And Forex liquidity presents risks to Nigerian banks' ratings. That's according to the credit rating agency Fitch. Details can be found on page 22. As I said, the front page of The Punch also has a story on security. Borno massacre, which is the kicker for that lead headline. Boko Haram mounts checkpoints and collects levies, says Senate, and reps invite Buhari. Boko Haram mounts checkpoints and collects levies, says Senate, and reps invite Buhari. Of course, you also have 2 other riders to that headline. And then below the photographs there on the front page, we are perfecting Mena's extradition process. That's according to the police. Mena, of course, is on trial. He was picked up in Niger Republic after he jumped bail. That's on page 7 in greater detail. Abuja Light Rail awaits PTF order to resume operations, page 19. Bello presents 130 billion naira budget to Kogi Assembly. And Emir of Kano meets Obasanjo, Abiodun, and Alake in Ogun. Benue DPO shot, arresting criminals selling looted goods. Saraki, Ayim, and Dankwabo in Plateau to resolve PDP crisis. That's on page 28. Bayo.
Thank you. Let's start with the development regarding the gruesome murder of rice farmers in Borno State. The federal government says it will review the conventional ways of handling security challenges in the country. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who described the killing of farmers as insane, said we need to keep reviewing the conventional means of dealing with these security challenges. We have to do a lot more intelligence, particularly at the community policing initiative, which will enable a fast supply of information at local levels, and reactions will be faster and effective. Governors of the Northeast had gone on a condolence visit to their compatriot governor of Borno State, and they said, enough of excuses. Those who have nothing to offer in terms of securing the country should be shown the way out. They said, Governor Darius Isiaku, who spoke on behalf of the governor, said time has come to find the solution. Northeast governors demand use of mercenaries against Boko Haram. Governor Darius Isiaku added, we cannot continuously be mourning. There has to be a time to stop mourning. If we neglect it, it will become worse. Meanwhile, at the National Assembly, the House of Representatives, 10 members of the from Borno State, representing Borno State, led by Honorable Satomi Ahmed, prayed the president to declare a state of emergency on security matters and also to invite the president. The speaker and majority leader opined that issues of security may not necessarily be discussed in the open. This became contentious, and to avoid a rowdy session, the House of Rep went into executive session. When they resumed at plenary, a motion was moved for the president to be invited at no date specified. At the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan described the gruesome murder of rice farmers as death too many. The Senate resolved that the president should replace the service chiefs with new ones with fresh ideas and solutions. They also called for the remodeling of security architecture and to provide modern equipment to effectively combat the insurgents. Senator Ali Ndume actually testified that sometimes ammunitions are counted for the security men, and some don't even have bulletproof jackets and helmets to fight in the war. A call was also made to probe the security resources provided for security to ensure that they are properly and adequately deployed. But the story of the murder of farmers dominated the nation so much so that it almost swept under the carpet the initiative that was launched yesterday, that is the National Auto Gas Rollout Initiative. President Muhammadu Buhari launched the initiative at 2 gas stations. There's one at Lugbe NPC Mega Pilot Station. The other is at the Katampe NNPC Mega Stations. The president implored Nigerians to embrace the use of gas as an alternative to petrol. There are 3 categories of the gas. There is the CNG, that is compressed natural gas, which is said to be very compatible with diesel engines. There is the LNG, liquefied natural gas, and also the LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, which is the one we use at home. These are all amenable to be used for vehicular transportation. And in comparative terms, a liter of petrol now costs between 163 naira to 170 naira across the country. An equivalent, of course, gas is measured in cubic feet. An equivalent of 1 liter will come to about 110 naira, and that is said to be far cheaper than the petrol. It is part of the initiative of government to provide cleaner energy and reduce our dependence on petrol. The president expressed appreciation to Nigerians, particularly organized labor, for their patience, maturity, patriotism, as well as enduring the painful global economic recession, which has brought a lot of challenges. He directed the Minister of State Petroleum to hand over mass transit buses to organized labor. This can be described as a very good initiative. You recall that there used to be mass transit program by the Nigeria Labour Congress. We can't even hardly find one of them on the street. That we have to be very careful. Maintenance culture. Labour had mass transit. They were running it. Where are the buses? If they were not profitable, at least they should have been able to manage some of the buses to keep the services going. If they are not proper maintenance culture, these same buses are likely to go that same way.
Well, Bayo, thanks. I mean, that's a very important point that you have raised. It's not so much about maintenance, because after all, in accounting, there's depreciation. And assets such as vehicles get to be depreciated over time for accounting purposes. And in reality, vehicles also have their lifespan. So what is more critical, in my opinion, has to do with replacement. As you said, NLC had mass transit, so-called mass transit buses that were plying the highways, and they also had haulage. They also had haulage, haulage trucks. Now, my concern with the 1,000 buses that are going to be given out is, after the 1,000 buses exhaust their useful life, what happens? There are buses here in the Federal Capital Territory called Air Rufai buses. When you see them now, they pollute the environment, smoky, and they are in various states of disrepair. And if you also recall, at the time, the former administration of President Goodluck Jonathan tried, of course, to deal with the issue of deregulation, 2011, 2012, and there were all kinds of protests and demonstrations in the country. One of the measures they did was to say, okay, we're going to deploy mass transit buses in various parts of the country, particularly in urban areas. We also saw those mass transit buses here in Abuja. They come out the first few months, so the buses are looking clean and neat. Give them another 1 year, give them another 2 years, and it's a struggle for you to board those buses. And after a while, the buses just, they disappear. Yes. Now, the Lagos state government provides, perhaps in our context, a model to emulate. That's the BRT model, to say, look, how are they able to replace the vehicles as they age? How are they also able to increase their fleet? I know that that's a PPP arrangement, but for the federal government now to say, we are giving you 1,000 buses, is it a grant? Is it a donation? Is it a loan? Or what? And what is the management option? In the meantime, it could be sweet, but give it a few years and then you have issues.
Disappear, yes. So unless that is sustained and imbibe a maintenance culture, gradually, the idea is to ameliorate cost. The few resources they get, they can increase the buses over the years. And if they maintain them properly, they will last a long time. There are state governments that are managing their transport system very well.
That's right.
What is the name now? Edo Transport Service.
Edo City Transport Service.
I'm talking about the one that shuttles across states.
Oh, that's Edo Line.
Edo Line.
Yes, Edo Line.
One of the most dependent, Northeast Line, very dependable. They've been on there for years. And what is the strategy they use and they are able to sustain this line and services over the years?
Well, Edo Line was the brainchild of Samuel Ogbemudia when he was military governor of the then Midwest. That was Bendel and Edo and Delta. It was called Midwest Line when it was launched, and it borrowed heavily from the Greyhound buses you find in the Americas. It was a luxury, traveling in those vehicles. Then, of course, it became an example for others to emulate. As you said, there are state governments that continue to run their transport services efficiently, and this is what the federal government, I don't think the federal government in this case is getting into the business of running the transport service. That's to say bus service. So look, we are giving you these 1,000 buses. The question is, after 1,000 buses, what next? Yes. All right, so Bayo, we're getting pressed for time. Of course, the story of Mena's extradition is there. In law, you say that he's become a fugitive because he didn't attend to his trial, and in short, he was called in. That's Senator Aliu Dume, who spent some nights at Kuje Prison or Correctional Center, as it's also called. They say he's been arrested in the Niger Republic.
Yes, it is an initiative between the Nigerian police and the Interpol. And he's been arrested already. He's in custody, and the Nigerian police are perfecting the papers for his extradition to face his trial.
Yes. But, since Monday, we've not had the opportunity of mentioning this, either because we're dealing with a number of very important issues and also very pressing, and then we also had the time challenges. One of Nigeria's very prominent journalists passed away last week, on Friday. Bolabo Ogunsonwo.
Yes.
Bolabo Ogunsonwo was editor of the Sunday Times in the 1970s, and he was also acting editor of the Daily Times. For those who do not know, Daily Times is, to date, Nigeria's largest media conglomerate. It had an accompaniment of print and printing and all of that. It had offices around the country. It also had offices in the UK. No media enterprise, of course, has been able to match the kind of scope and breadth that the Daily Times had. Before it, of course, was taken over by the federal government. Bolabo Ogunsonwo was also a very popular columnist. And, of course, he had a number of coinages, if you recall.
I was a student of Bolabo Ogunsonwo. He taught me basics of journalism in 1976. So I'm very familiar with him.
That's right.
He's a great journalist. The good news, however, is that you call the APC political leader in Nasarawa State who was murdered. They've now arrested a man they describe as a notorious kidnapper and murderer. He's now in the police net. The governor announced it.
That's right. Bayo Atebi, would like to thank you for being around. See you again tomorrow. All right, that's Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on the network service, as always, of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with the resurgence of insecurity and what needs to be done.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Breakfast your day, every day.
Nestle, good food, good life.
It's a season of smiles on our faces with LifeMate Furniture's 48% discount on all products, 20% discount on Royal products, and 30% discount on V-Mate electrical appliances. From the 27th November to 20th December, treat your loved ones and win cars, refrigerators, TV, and electric motorcycles. So hurry and buy LifeMate Furniture to win great gifts and raffle tickets. Prepare for the raffle draw on the 19th of December 2020, 1 p.m. at Chika Mba Close, Lekki Ekpe Expressway, Osapa Village, Lagos, Nigeria. Follow on Facebook at LifeMate Furniture to win beautiful toys and call 081 2000 6000 for more. Celebrate your Christmas with love and all LifeMate Furniture showrooms. Happy holidays from LifeMate Furniture. LifeMate, making your life better.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
All right, it's still Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. Now, to kickstart our conversation on the resurgence of insecurity, let's listen into this backgrounder by Abdulsalam Jubril.
For some time now, insecurity has been a major challenge in Nigeria with the Boko Haram insurgency, farmers-herders conflict, kidnappings, and armed banditry. While the Buhari administration since assumption of office has made great efforts to tackle these challenges across the country, the recent killings of over 40 farmers in Zabamari village of Jere local government area of Borno State and the increased spate of kidnappings nationwide has raised concerns about a possible resurgence of insecurity in Nigeria.
Federal government is surely going to step up its action against the insurgents. And as we mourn our dead, the president had asked the armed forces to take the battle, the fight to the insurgents wherever they are. And this should be sustained. And we believe that it's a matter of time. A lot more of resources will be deployed.
The goodwill message to the government and people of Borno State. We were able to go to the village where the atrocities occurred, and were very well received by the people because they wanted to hear from the leaders to commiserate with the families and the community.
In fairness, while insecurity is not a problem that is unique to Nigeria, how can the present security challenge be surmounted? Some experts are calling for community policing and the repositioning of the current security architecture. How effective will this be towards providing adequate security for Nigerians? These and more guests on the program will be providing answers to in a moment.
Many thanks, Abdul Salam, for that background. With us here in the studios now to discuss this issue, it's our pleasure to welcome Major General John Enenche, his coordinator, Defense Media Operations. General Enenche, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
All right. Also here with us in the studios, we'd like to welcome General Ahmed Jibril, who's a former Director of Military Intelligence. General Jibril, delight to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Okay. And of course, our regular security analyst, Dr. Kabir Adamu, who's a security risk management expert, is with us in the studios as well. Dr. Kabir, pleasure to have you with us.
The pleasure is mine. Good morning.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, let's begin the conversation. I'm starting with General Jibril, that's the former Director of Military Intelligence. There is a common saying amongst Nigerian elite, and I'm going to use that to also pose a question to you.
Thank you.
How country? How country?
How country?
Yes.
Very good. Well, I know the current issue we are having at hand in the country is the problems we are encountering in dealing with security issues. Today, because there are killings of innocent Nigerians, some of them in their places of work, some of them in places you least expect them to be killed. And it has become a kind of occurrence that we are somehow getting used to. And this is not because we don't know the reason. The reason is very obvious because the country is facing terrorism and insurgency at the northeast, and the country is also facing banditry, kidnapping, and sundry criminal activities in the northwest. And north central also, we are having similar problems of banditry, kidnapping, and so on and so forth. This is where we find ourselves today, and this is not a problem that has started today. We have been with this problem in the last 10 years or so. The duty of government is to provide security and secured environment for its people. I know for sure the government is doing everything possible to ensure that there is peace and security all over in the country. And that's why the armed forces have been deployed almost everywhere. We have a problem at hand such that the military is practically being used for everything. The military is the force that is being used to deal with insurgency. It's the one that is being used to deal with the banditry we are having problem with. It's the military that is dealing with as low as cultism. Practically every problem we have in this country is the military that is being used. Somehow the military is being overstretched and being overused. We have other security agencies in this country, like the police, the DSS, and to some extent, civil defense that can help in maintenance of peace and security in the country. But somehow we found ourselves all the time relying on the military. So overburdening the military with this type of responsibility necessarily require that the military get the support not only of the government but also of the people. I know Nigerians have been patient with the military, but somehow the support the military is getting from the people is not as encouraging as it's supposed to be. Because in other places, you find out that when the military is engaged in a situation like we find ourselves, the entire populace are behind the military. Everybody is eager to hear the military do the smallest thing, they receive cheers, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, we find ourselves in a country where any small mistake the military does is what the entire populace will be talking about. It's what the press like to give prominence. But where the military has achieved some measure of success is reported or is even hardly reported. We are living witness that in the last 2 months or so, more than 250 insurgents and bandits were killed by the military. But that is hardly reported. But unfortunately, anytime there is any small problem affecting the security, the military is blamed. It's unfortunate we lost 43 innocent farmers in their farms. And then some people feel that why should the military allow that to happen? Now, the military is not alone in this. The military is there to give it quota. There are other security agencies that are expected to support the military, at least in the areas of intelligence gathering and intelligence sharing. But it's not always the case. This is making the job of the military a bit difficult. Some people were calling the head of the military units around the area where these 43 innocent farmers were killed because they feel they ought to have protected the people. But we have to know one important fact. The Saturday where this incident happened, there was election at Maiduguri local government election, and of course movements are not allowed during the election. Somehow, the farmers found themselves in their farms, and from the information we reliably gathered, the farmers have some working arrangement with these insurgents who are their kith and kins. We have to know for a fact that the military in some remote areas of Borno State are being looked at as intruders. We have to know that for a fact. They look at the insurgents as their people. They speak the same language, they do things together. Some of them are even part of them. So somehow the military does not receive the commensurate support it's supposed to get by way of intelligence sharing to help the military to have some idea about the movement and the whereabouts of the insurgents. So with that kind of situation, the military finding itself, it's difficult for them to rise to the occasion when such incidents happen. We have troops not too far away from there, about 10 kilometers from there. But the truth, there is no road directing, for instance, the place where the incident happened, where Koshebo, where the incident happened. There is no route from Ngom, where our military location is, to that place. You have to come round to Zabalmari, and that will add 15 kilometers to your journey before you could reach Koshebe. And even from Zabalmari to Koshebe is a long journey in the sense that the gun troops we have could not reach the place. At some point, troops have to use tractors, and at some point, the troops had to come down and trek to reach the area. So response is very important when you are dealing with situation like this. And because of the problem of the terrain, it's always difficult for the two to arrive on time. And we all know that this shooting the incident took place. There was no single gun that was fired. The people are used to them. They lured them and told them that come and meet the Amir. They know themselves. There was nobody that was forced to go to the place. They all willingly went to the place simply because they know the people and they have been relating with them. So they gathered them and said, come and see the Amir. And then they went in one by one. It is when they now saw that those people were not coming out, they begin to know that there is problem. And unfortunately, there is no way the military will know such a thing is going on. And our intelligence gathering effort has to be sharpened further to be able to know that such a thing is happening.
Okay, Gerard Jabir, thank you. I gave you the opportunity to elaborate on these issues. You've cited a number of examples, but there are many matters arising from what you have said, and indeed what the security situation is in various parts of the country. Dr. Kabir Adamu, but we've often discussed the security situation in the country. Now, the trigger for this is obviously what happened in Borno last weekend, where no fewer than 43 farmers were murdered in cold blood. In the northwestern part of the country, banditry is ongoing. Traveling from Abuja to Kaduna by road is a nightmare for many. In the southwest, there are all kinds of reports. The other day, a first-class traditional ruler was shot and killed by kidnappers. The wife of the chief of staff of the governor was also picked up. And of course, in the south-south, the story is the same as it is in the north-central part of the country. Once again, what's your reading of what's playing out?
Thank you, Kingsley. Indeed, I would like to start off from where General Jibrin left off. He made the point that the military is not the only security agency in the country. And that's the point I would like to emphasize. We have a national security architecture that depends on 27 ministries, departments, and agencies. We also have a national security strategy that recognizes the importance of all of these 27 ministries, departments, and agencies. However, unfortunately, where based on my review over the last few months and years actually, coordination appears to be a huge gap within the activities of these 27 ministries, departments, and agencies. Each of them has a role to play, and unfortunately it appears they are operating in silos, and the ability for their functions to be visible to the ordinary Nigerian is depleting by the day, and that is why we're seeing the kind of circumstances we're seeing. We are very disparate elements that are coexisting very uneasily, and the reason for this is because of perhaps the perception and sometimes the reality of marginalization that exists among us. There is no part of the country that you go that does not have either this perception or, in some instances, the reality of this marginalization. And unfortunately, they are exhibiting this grievance, sometimes in ways that is affecting our national security. And so you have no part of the country that you go to, you've reeled out some of them, criminality, name them, terrorism in the northeast. They're all of these are exhibitions of this, uneasy coexistence that we're finding among ourselves. Now, at the center of all of this is the role of politicians in managing this very disparate nature of our society. Let's remember, a few months ago in October, we celebrated our Jubilee. And at that time, the team was together. We realized this disparate nature that we have as a society. And then at that time, my point, when I reviewed the celebration, I suggested that perhaps we should have taken it further to celebrate diversity and also to celebrate empowerment, so that we can diffuse this disparate element. Now, I'm sure the listener will be wondering, why am I emphasizing on this disparate nature of our society and why we're coexisting uneasily? It is because it has a function to the insecurity situation we have in our country. No matter how good these 27 ministries, departments, and agencies are, if these political circumstances are not managed properly, then it will be a bit difficult for them to manage the insecurity situation. The second point is the circumstances within these 27 ministries, departments, and agencies themselves. Some of them, unfortunately, like General has emphasized, are stretched. In the case of the military, because of our background, our history, the military is over-involved in internal security matters. I know there has been an attempt by the 9th Assembly and, of course, the Buhari administration to address this particular issue. But like we say in Hausa, when you are making this local snack that we call dambu, and it's too much, then no matter the oil you put, before you see it show it will be very, very difficult. So that's very important. The specific challenges within those security agencies needs also to be addressed, starting from the policy, the law that set them up, the policy with which they are operating with, and then down to even their recruitment and training. Then the next point, which is also critical, is what I would call the absence of monitoring and evaluation mechanisms within these ministries, departments, and agencies in the security sector. There are no key performance indicators that would easily tell us they are doing well or they are not doing well. Now, in the absence of that, a lot of the discussions that General has mentioned in the media, especially the social media space, is criticizing the activities of these functions. If there were key performance indicators that were clear, that would tell you, okay, this ministry is doing well based on the budget at its disposal, or the key performance indicators that we've given to it at the beginning of the year, then it would be difficult for anyone who wants to criticize that organization to criticize it. And then lastly, also very critical, as my opening statement, is the relationship between the different branch system levels of government with the security architecture, as it were. Security, as it were, is in the exclusive list currently. And unfortunately, the presence of security agencies at the rural level, the very, very rural level, is very, very linear. And so that makes it very difficult for the average Nigerian to relate with the security architecture, as it were. Now we have created security document strategies, name them. There is a national counterterrorism strategy. There is a revised national security strategy. How many people, if you go to the market today, even here in Abuja, how many persons in the market know the existence of those documents? So that's another challenge. We need to look critically at that and see how we can take those documents down to the state level, and then from the state level down to the community level. That way, we will build an all-inclusive security strategy that will give us the intelligence that we require. I hear the military saying they are not being supported by the average person in the Northeast. It's because the person, frankly, does not really understand very well what the military is doing. He sees the military more as, hindering his activities. The military will shut down a market for sometimes months. Yes, I, as a security professional, I understand why that market is being shut down. But does the person who depends on his livelihood on that market understand why the military is doing that? Unfortunately, no. So we need to take those documents down to the average Nigerian so that he understands what we're trying to achieve, and then he supports it. If for you to win any security strategy, you need to win the hearts and minds of the people. And the best way to do that, strategic communication that would build resilience.
All right. Dr. Kabir Adamo, thank you very much there for your opening salvo. Again, a number of issues that you have raised. I find particularly interesting, before we bring in General John Enenche, the issue of apparently the absence of KPIs for the 27 odd agencies that are involved with security management in the country. KPIs stand for Key Performance Indicators. So, for instance, simple law enforcement, you would say around the country, we used to have, let's say, 1,000 armed robbery cases being reported every month. On account of our deployment of the strategy in quarter 1, quarter 2, and quarter 3, those numbers have now come down to 250 or 230. And then going forward, this is what we intend to do. Now, if those were your key performance indicators spelled out before the beginning of the operating year, it means you will have achieved on those things. Terrorist attacks, well, no matter how you classify them, whether you say unconventional warfare or otherwise, we used to have so many raids undertaken by these terrorists in particular locations in the country. Now we're going to slash that by 25% or reduce it by 50%, going on and on. That's a scientific way of evaluating. It's not sufficient to say that, all right, no, we are dealing with this, we are dealing with that. So, Dr. Kabir Adamo, thank you very much. Once again, we'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's bring in now Major General John Enenche, who is Coordinator of Defense Media Operations. Well, General Jibrin, we already leveraged your comments, because the military today is the face of internal security governance, as it were, on account of its over-deployment in virtually all states of the Federation. One of the last times we had you here, I thought the military was then deployed to some 32 states of the Federation. Probably now you have them all over the place. But there is still the lingering exasperation or frustration being felt by stakeholders. Just yesterday, I'm sure you heard the resolutions passed by the two chambers of the National Assembly, the House of Reps on its own, and then the Senate itself on its own. There are complaints that we don't appear to be achieving our goals. What's the response from the field and from your headquarters?
Thank you, Kingsley. I am happy that the comment is apparent, not specific, not definite, that you are not achieving your goals. And it is based on from which perspective they were looking at it from, or they are looking at it from. Yeah, from the perspective of somebody who is not in the field there and who bases his own analysis on what they expect, not what is real, it is right. However, it may not be the fact that we are not achieving. When we now say we are achieving, we base it and weigh it against where we are coming from, where we want to get to, and where are we now. The incident of Saturday at Koshobe brought out that particular, assumption, or whatever the way they look at it now. But I want to remind us that this year, somewhere in the same theater of operation, they lured the same tactics they used. They used that to lure the populace here to the market area that they want to preach to them. And they killed several also. You can see that their strategy has changed. Their strategy has changed from being confrontational, frontal, kinetic, to now covert. That is an achievement for us. If you look at the history of terrorism all over the world, with particular references to the Al-Shabaab and then to the ones in Pakistan, the same pattern. When they are losing the foothold, they are losing grounds, they resort to that. Why am I saying so? Before we got to this level where we are now, where I can say that we, the armed forces and other security agencies, to a large extent, making progress towards ending this thing eventually. It started from insurgency. They had a territory to themselves that they were governing with full authority, collecting finances. Up till the time 2016, when they lost that all, and Sambisa was liberated, short of limited, isolated incidents there. Then they moved on to that to what? To bombings, suicide bombings, all over the whole place, even beyond the shores of the northeast itself, spread to Kano, where 120 was killed in a day, to some places in Niger State and all. And the military now came up with military walking dogs, sniffer dogs, amongst other strategies and plans put in place. In the last 1 year, I think if we've recorded suicide bombers, getting into a place, it's still one of the modus operandi of terrorists. I would say that 99% that one is gone. From insurgency, where they gathered, where they had authority, they had Ministry of Finance, in quote, where they collect levies and tax people. They had judiciary, alcalis that will try people openly and slaughter you in the open market. That's gone. So, modestly speaking and actually speaking, like I said, we are making progress. But now this unfortunate incident that always accompany the end of terrorism, unfortunately, it always occurs from history. And why? Because when the people don't come out to identify themselves. Let me go back a little. I fought in that place about 20-something years ago, 21 years ago with General Temlong. That was when they were looking at it as banditry, and we said, no, it's not banditry. He said, reconceptualize this operation for us to mean war. Because all the weapons we are capturing from them, the only one that I am not seeing now is a gun truck or the PKT. All other ones, GPMG, mortar tube, they had all. Kala, they had them, and they were using to fight us. And we were capturing them. We were in reconnected. So what is the difference between that one and now? The difference is that it is not as dominant as it were now skeletal. So if you put all that together, now we are at that tail end. In Peshawar, I think for December 16, 2014, in Pakistan, they went to a school after all the United Nations had declared that Pakistan is free of terrorism and all, to create what? Confusion, fear in the minds of the people, and to prove that they are still relevant. But after that, what are we seeing now in that particular place? And even in Kenya, where Al-Shabaab operates, skeletal. So we are now getting towards the end, actually, in the real sense of how they play out. Now, the issue now that left for us is that all stakeholders must be involved. Permit me not to give out the name of this particular country, because we did our research, we even visited some before the media operations came up, and they told us that we had to be moving from house to house to pick the collaborators. the informants before we got to this level. That took them 12 years. But I believe that with the cooperation we are getting from the locals here, particularly from the state government, ours won't take that. Because there were those people, like I said, 20 years ago that were born in the camp. They know nothing that is normal in life apart from what? Banditry, translated to insurgency, and now translated to terrorism. So it's a lot of effort that we all have to put in. Even if I speak Fufu, our troops speak the Kanuri or the languages that are there, you will not convince them that, look, drop this ideology, change to become a normal human being, except you are their kinsman or kinswoman or related. They know you. Now, like my boss said, these people were lured. There was an advisory. Don't go out. Of course, we know that anywhere there is a security challenge, there is advisory. I was a CEO 14, 15 years ago in Onitsha. And we used to issue advisory. This, what we are doing as exercise Crocodile Smile now, has been there, just that it is being reformed, re-strategized, remodified to meet the challenge of the time. We will tell them, when they are coming home, your brothers will arrange and come and kill you. I served in Onitsha. 2 governors, I served with them, Ngige and then Peter Obi. We are out there. So, and the advisory will be issued once you are coming in for Christmas. You make us to be aware. There were even instances they will tax you to go and offer protection for them. Otherwise, it is something else. And then at the end, you now begin to have crises and issues. So the advisory was issued. However, like my boss said, that is this actual. They lured them because they were working with them. Additional information I have on that notice that they even say that they thought it was as before. When they will come, they will talk with them, help them carry load, and then exchange whatever they will exchange. Can you imagine? In a place where that place is 37.5 kilometers from Maiduguri, and we have our air cover that has dominated that area. And if the patrols, yes, they will come short of the basin. It's a flood basin where they farm rice. 30 of those people, that died were immigrant farmers from Sokoto, Kebbi, and Zamfara, among others. So you could see that advisory was not, kept to. And why? Because, in quote, permit me to use this word, their loyalty, commitment is still to what? To the terrorists. So what I'm saying is that
General, thanks. Yes. I want to take this along. I'm sure the other guests will also respond to this. In the earlier part of the counter-insurgency efforts by the security forces, namely the military, we saw this rejection. They said early on in Maiduguri, that was a claim that, we're not going to collaborate or cooperate with the military because they were picking up our people indiscriminately and then, dealing with them accordingly. So it's been ongoing. They will say, no, we don't want the military. Then say, let the military disengage. They are our children, they are our kids and kin. We will sort it out. And after a while, the matter just kept escalating. What is going on, therefore, that more than 10 years later, it's still the same story of, if you like, divided loyalty, one to the Federal Republic and then the other to the insurgents? What's going on? That's the issue.
That is what I'm from our own analysis, and if I'll be permitted, like Paul the Apostle will say, to bring my own destiny, which of course as a general I should. How do you expect somebody who knows nothing about violence to get what he wants in life? Somebody who say Western education is bad, from when he was born, and the man is now 30 years old, 40 years old. I wrote a paper on it. So it is difficult. That is the situation on ground. And then sometimes people who ignorantly, opinion leaders, people they believe in, also told that line. We had incidents in this country recently where people were encouraging people to do what is not, good for the total populace. None of them has come out to say, I'm sorry, till tomorrow, and they may not come out. That is the situation, the announcer. These people have grown in it. So that's why I say it will take a lot of effort. That is the issue. We are doing our civil-military cooperation activities. The schools, we have teachers there, hospitals, medical outreaches, handouts, and then even giving out a lot of things. We are doing that. So it is now left, that is the situation, left for the other people, the other party, the stakeholders. I don't think I'm permitted to begin to mention specifics here, but we know ourselves, people who preach to them, talk to them, they're here. Let us come together, encourage them that this is not good for you, it's not good for anybody. Otherwise, if they provided information, I tell you the Air Force will scramble the gunships and all, and, follow, support the ground troops, and they would have, prevented that. And that is what we lacked in the last 2 incidents that we recorded, more than 10 or 20 or thereabout. And from also, let me make one clarification here. Because people were reporting different figures, we follow them by the hour now. As I speak, the total information, that there was somebody, he came out on the air and said, look, those of us, those people that were invited were about 70 that were invited. Yes, and that was what he even gave on the air. And when the governor went there, say, yes, 43 were burying now. The GOC, I think other senior officers were there, but the rest were still looking for them. As I speak to you, confirmed, recorded, 29 have been, rescued from the surrounding bushes. They were being combined up till yesterday. As at the last moment I was doing, and they would have updated me as I'm sitting down here now if they have recorded more. If you put 43 and 29 together, it gives us 72. So what are we talking about? And yesterday again, in the media, somebody was saying they recovered 35 from where, but they didn't want to be quoted. One media house that is not even, I don't think, I don't see the name in Nigeria. And people are picking that up. So I will want to appeal to the public. Like my boss has said, let them support us more. Not everything, you castigate your military, then what do you have again? And here we are doing everything with other security agencies. So that is the situation as it is. And I want to assure that we are there, and because when they went there, the terrain was bad, they had to use tractor to go in that place, to go in there. And there were, like I said earlier on at various engagements, we work on our tactics, operational moves, everything, strategy, every day is on daily basis now, because it's dynamic, and we have to also be dynamic. It's not like we are sitting down on monthly basis, fortnightly or weekly to do that. So as I speak with you, even the theater, all of them are sitting down, strategizing to see what they can do to be countering the emerging threat. Because like I said, now to be deceiving people and slaughtering them, murdering them is now the new tactics of the terrorists. And we are, challenging that seriously. We are going to take on that seriously. All right,
General Neche, thank you very much. I mean, the more one hears the approach deployed by the terrorists in the massacre that took place at the weekend, the more one is reminded of the fable involving the lion and the tortoise. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. The lion claimed that he was ill at some point, and he was in his cave, in his lair, and then asked the tortoise to come and visit him. So the tortoise went to the entrance to it and said, I've been sick, I've been ill for a long time, I've been ill. But the tortoise saw the footprints on the sand. There were footprints indicating that other animals or other visitors were going into the lair, the cave, to visit the lion. But the lion didn't see, the tortoise didn't see footsteps of them coming out. And the tortoise, being very wise, said, Lion, I will see you next time. It's unfortunate that we've lost those 43 Nigerians. But General Jibril, there's something that some analysts have also referred to, and sometimes they point to perhaps larger strategic considerations. There are frequent reports of the camps of the terrorists being taken out, whether in the northwest, but more particularly, I'll say, in the northeast, and the video footages are shown from time to time, and occasionally also numbers are also assigned as to the number, as to the ranks of the terrorists that have been liquidated or otherwise decimated, and yet they keep operating. They keep operating. So you just ask yourself, is there a production chamber where these people just keep sprouting and sprouting and then wreaking havoc the way they do in the northwest and also in the northeast? What are we dealing with? That's one leg. And then second leg, you've talked about some of the challenges that we have with civil-military relations. I mean, General Neche was here sometime in the past, and off there, we had discussed this. Perhaps, I don't know whether the military has also taken this into consideration. Yes, we know that there is either a unit now or a department of civil-military relations that is ongoing, But you know, the relationship between the military, the law enforcement agencies, and the civil populace has always been one of antagonism. I mean, men in uniform, those of them, of course, you know, will refer to civilians as bloody civilians. So they don't see you, you know, to cooperate with you. You are in a war situation, you are in a conflict situation. You say, okay, they are the ones, let them go and face it. So 2 issues I would like you to address. One, why do we keep having this plenitude of criminal gangs or of terrorists, despite the fact that there are reports that they are being taken out by either kinetic operations or ground forces?
Well, we have to know for a fact that these bandits, they keep recruiting every day because they are the same people that live with the populace in their communities. They go to the bush to commit havoc. And the same community is the source of their recruitment. And that is why when one camp is destroyed, tomorrow you see, when the heat is much, not all of them that are being killed in their camps, some of them do run away, some with injury, and then they will go around and come back to the public and live with them. That is the nature of fighting banditry. That is the nature of fighting insurgency. Because these are Nigerians. If you go to the northwest, most of the bandits in Katsina, in Zamfara, they are not from Anambra or Oyo State. They are the same people. They live with their people. And somebody was even saying that there is hardly a family now in Katsina that there is no bandit. There is hardly a family now in Maiduguri or Borno that there is no Boko Haram. Because they are the same people. So it's very easy for the military to attack their camp, kill some of them run away. They will still come back. And these camps we are talking about, they are not heavy or big infrastructure they put there. No, it's just some tents. Sometimes there is not even anything other than shade for them to stay during the day. And then when it is night, some of them come back to their places and sleep and go back when they are ready to cause their havoc. So it's not difficult for them to be dispersed, some of them kill, and then for them to reassemble in another place. It's very, very simple. And that is what has been happening. They are attacked, some are killed, some run away, they come back. And their recruitment is continuous. So if it's in a family, and especially if they achieve relative success, as some of them are, so it encourages some of them to go. But I know that's why we are emphasizing the need for the people to be bold enough. It's their own responsibility as Nigerians to make up their mind and be Nigerians and support the military and other security agencies in this fight. It is their own part of contribution. The military are dying, they are putting their lives on the line to safeguard the people. The people on their own part, they should do more. Some of them are helping the military, some of them are helping the other security agencies, but they must come out to actually be bold, be Nigerians, and do their own contribution. So it will continue like that. Disperse them, they will go. It's not a special camp. It's not a barrack like our own military barrack. No, it's just a small shanty arrangement they made for them to just meet. And once it is attacked, they go.
If these persons are indeed within the community, how do we explain that years ago it did not appear to be lucrative for them to get into banditry or terrorism? Yes. And now it has become lucrative for them either in Katsina or Zamfara to become bandits, and then in the Borno and elsewhere in the northeast to become terrorists.
Yes. Well, this is a sociological problem. This is an issue that you understand. At a point, people, the values we respect as community people, it's not only in the area of fighting banditry, insurgency and so on. No, generally in the society, you would have noticed that the values have been bastardized. Everywhere you go in the world, not only in Nigeria, not only in Africa, the values we respect, the values of honesty, the virtue of honesty, the virtue of respect, family name, no longer respected by people. People now are going headlong for crass materialism, accumulate money, live a very comfortable life even though they don't have the means. So when they now realize 1 or 2 persons are successful in doing that, they kidnap and get money, so they are lured into it. And that's why it keeps happening. So in the area of the help the military is supposed to do to civilians to get their support, I think the military is doing a lot. The civil-military relation has never been as good as it is now. If you go to the northeast, you go to the northwest, you will see there are schools being built for the communities, some being renovated. There are hospitals being renovated, being given staff to operate and medicine to dispense to the people. Even roads are being repaired and constructed for them. So all these things are complete part of the effort of the military, civil military affairs, in order to win hearts and minds. There is medical outreach. They even do in places where there is hardly any civilian doctor that would like to go. The military doctors and nurses go there and provide this. The same thing our engineers, especially during the rainy seasons, they go and assist them to help them cross rivers, to help them to clear roads for them to move. So all these things are part of the military, civil military affairs. And above all, the military try as much as possible to respect the local leaders, the local community leaders, their local religious leaders, and to work with them as mark of respect for them so that they know that the military respect their constituted authority. The military are only there to assist them to ensure that at least no matter what is going on, they will remain with the people. But you know that, like they say, blood is thicker than water. It's very difficult to sever the link of kinsmen, no matter the situation. There is hardly a bandit that will cause havoc outside and run into his family, and the family will send him out. It's very difficult.
Yeah, General Jibrin, fine point. And that's why I want Dr. Kabir Adamu to also come in. Some persons have argued, and I'm sure you have also encountered that argument, that part of the government's strategy in dealing with, say, terrorism is not quite yielding the results, and that's to say the radicalization and reintegration. Examples are cited of neighboring countries, Chad and the Niger Republic, and there are reports from time to time of the arrests, summary trials, and sometimes execution of terrorists who have been picked up. And examples are given here to say, no, they are being pampered. Well, that's the claim. They are being de-radicalized and then reintegrated into society, even though some persons also in those parts heavily impacted by terrorism are also complaining that, look, this reintegration exercise isn't going to work. Is that something that we need to continue to pursue, or we need now to revise it, considering the argument that these persons, supporters, collaborators, informants are all within?
Thank you, Kingsley. Our national counterterrorism strategy identifies several components. The kinetic component that everybody's familiar with, which is being headed by Operation Lafia Dole Theater Command in Maiduguri. That's the one that I guess everybody knows. But there are several other silent components encapsulated under what is called the countering violent extremism approach. And this approach was documented into a framework that is under, the custodian of it is the Office of the National Security Advisor. Now, under that CVE, Countering Violent Extremism Framework, you've got elements like de-radicalization, you've got strategic communication, then you also have the economic revampment of the locations that are affected by terrorism. Now, all of these things together form our national counterterrorism strategy. So as an expert, if I'm reviewing the national counterterrorism strategy, I look at all of these things together. I don't just pick one. Now, the de-radicalization component that you mentioned, under which Operation Safe Corridor is domiciled, is a very critical component of the national counterterrorism strategy. If you want to break the ranks of the terrorist, one of the easiest way is to remove the few ones among them that perhaps have for one reason or the other, decamped from the major group and given themselves up, or for one reason or the other, you've arrested them. Now you have to make a distinction between the commanders who, we've all agreed based on statements by here and then even before now, that there are certain elements within these terrorist groups that no matter what you do to them, they would probably never drop that ideology. So we have to make that distinction at this stage. However, from within the group, there are others who perhaps may have been misguided and have joined the ranks of those groups. It's very easy to de-radicalize those ones and then make them more functional members of society. So to that extent, Operation Safe Corridor is well recognized, endorsed by the United Nations, and in fact, almost all the countries of the world, as well as experts in counterterrorism. And to that extent, I think Nigeria has done well in embracing it. However, there are two challenges that I would like to mention. Number one is the conceptualization of Operation Safe Corridor. Is it different from what is currently being implemented? I would like to advise, with due respect to my military co-discussants, that the military should take a backseat and allow for the original conceptualization of that Operation Safe Corridor and allow perhaps civilians drive the de-radicalization component. Yes, protection is critical to all of the aspects of counter-radicalization, including Operation Safe Corridor. But in terms of the day-to-day operations, in terms of the media projection, I think it's better served by civilians, just like the conceptualization spoke about. The second element, which is also very important, is the socio-economic grievances that exist within society that in the first place gave birth to the radicalization. Now, I want to make the distinction between radicalization and de-radicalization. There were reasons why in the first place those people were radicalized. Now, have those reasons been addressed in the society where we're releasing those people to? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Those reasons still exist. And so even if you de-radicalize the person and you release him to society, if those reasons exist, then perhaps it will be easy for those persons to be radicalized. Now, to sum up all of this, in the recently released Global Terrorism Index, they identified one key component why terrorist groups thrive globally, and that is their ability to exercise influence. How do they exercise this influence? Funding, weaponization, and then their ability to recruit. Now, in the entire counter-terrorism strategy that we're implementing, we need to look at how do we block the influence, capacity, and capability of these terrorist groups. You asked my co-discussant a question regarding, the proliferation and ability of these groups to regenerate, as it were. That is the answer. We are still, unfortunately, allowing them to exercise influence through these three things I've mentioned. And this is honestly not a military issue. It's an issue that has to be looked at by the entire 27 agencies that I mentioned. We need to block the funding of these groups.
Those 27 agencies, Dr. Kabir, you say there's still a problem of coordination. Very quickly, why does that problem linger? And what needs to be done?
The current agency that has that responsibility in our national security architecture is the Office of the National Security Advisor, to a larger extent. And then you have the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Interior, and to an extent the Presidency, under which two bodies, the Secretary to Government of the Federation, and then the Chief of Staff to Mr. President. Now, all of these four bodies together, unfortunately, for one reason or the other, have not exercised that coordination element to the extent that we need to see results. So I think therein lies your answer. Perhaps there is a need to look critically at the role of all of these four agencies and identify what the challenges are. Why some of the meetings that they used to hold before, why are those meetings not holding any longer? I stand to be corrected, but like the JIB that used to hold periodically, I'm not sure it's still holding. Those are all places where you can review activities and then correct wherever you are missing your point. You can correct them at that level. So I think therein lies the. Sometimes, again, it's the personality of the persons leading those four points that I've mentioned. But in all of this, and I would like to emphasize this, strategic communication is absolutely important. We need to speak one language at both the federal, state, and to an extent the local level, so that we don't arm our enemies. If we show the kind of disagreement, think about it, even the figures of those who were killed, there is currently no agreement among several levels of government. So that's not good. The enemy will sit back and be laughing at us. Strategic communication is absolutely important in all of this.
All right, Dr. Kabir, thank you very much. General NTA, there are issues that is...
Yes.
and I'm sure you'd like to respond to that.
Yes, I would like to respond to this specific one that the military is in charge or like 100% administering or managing the Operation Safe Corridor. I want to state here that it is an obvious fact that if now the anchor organization that started the whole thing, International Office for Migration, amongst others, we have over 18 organizations, one military. And what is the role of the military? To provide security. I am part of it. I have been there. So I want that misconception that Operation Safe Corridor is a military affair. Totally no, sir. It was approved by the president. It is backed by the laws of the federation of this country, well constituted. And all these organizations, they have their part to play. If you go to the camp, the only instructors that you see that help them is for physical training, so that normally they do PT in the morning and then organize their games. But every other thing, you have the psychologists from the civil sector, you have the immigration that captures their biometrics, everything captured. And then the UN, the IOM, the USAID, UFD, DFD, IFC, and all the organizations playing their roles. The staff in there is 98% civilian, but we need to provide that security. There is nowhere in the world, whether it is DDR or whatever, all over, that you don't provide security for such people. Because as it were, we have, I want to say that we have sleeper cells. It's at Malam City in Gombe State. We used to have problem there. So one cannot rule out the fact that if now you even go and locate it in Lagos or locate it in Makurdi or anywhere, they will not get there. So that is just what I want to clear the air, that it is not 100% military affair. We are doing what we are supposed to do to ensure the security above all of the program.
All right, General Neche, thank you very much. General Jibrin, let's bring you one more time into the issue of intelligence. We often hear when incidents like this happen, we often hear when in the Northwest there are stories about protection racketeering for farmers, that before they cultivate their crops, they have to pay the bandits, and now when it is harvest time, they also have to pay the bandits. People keep saying, intelligence gathering is very important. And yet, from what Dr. Kabir Adamu tells us, there are no fewer than 27 agencies that are involved with security, not all of them necessarily with intelligence. What exactly is happening? What's intelligence? It shouldn't be ordinarily a big deal with the plenitude of agencies that we have. But why are we having these issues?
It's a very important aspect of fighting insurgency, because all insurgency operations, counterterrorism operation, cannot produce any result without actionable intelligence. It's very, very important. It has been said clearly that we are having some issues with our intelligence gathering capabilities. It's very important. The federal government attempted to up it to ensure it has taken it to a level that it will really perform the role it's supposed to perform. I assure you, it is not only human. And the aspect of human intelligence, we need the locals to assist us. It's very, very important. You cannot manufacture intelligence in-house. Somebody has to have it, and somebody has to give it for you to analyze it and make it intelligence. In the aspect of human, we have problems, because not all the locals that help us to be able to get to know where these people are, their movement. But unfortunately, our own movements are being reported through the activities of moles among us, and then through the activities of unpatriotic locals who are in the localities. The area of intelligence, I've said earlier in this program, that there is need for intelligence capability to be up. Effort by federal government to procure the necessary state-of-the-art intelligence gathering, ISR, that's intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance platform, was frustrated by some powerful countries. Wherever we go to get the equipment, they put their leg and ensure that we don't get. We went to Brazil, went to the UK, the France, all the countries, Ukraine. We made effort, they put their leg to ensure that we don't get the state-of-the-art intelligence gathering platforms. They are very, very important. Our development partners are helping us, but most of the platforms come from Chad, Niger, and so on. So, but I assure you that, again, COVID-19 also frustrated the effort to bring in this equipment. But a lot has gone, and I assure you that in the next coming weeks, I assure you that our intelligence gathering effort will get a new boost that will help to ensure that we get actionable intelligence, because there is no doubt about the fact that something has come. And I assure you, in no time, we'll begin to see the result. These gadgets are the game changers. I don't need to elaborate much for some obvious security reasons, but I assure you that we'll begin to see changes because our intelligence gathering effort has received heavy boost. I assure you.
All right. Thank you very much, General Jibrin, speaking with a great deal of confidence there, for former Director of Military Intelligence. Just to indicate that we have a number of tweets that have come in from our viewers. We'll take some of them before we sign off our guest. Chris Simeon says, for me, it's not about sacking of the service chiefs or reshuffling the security architecture of the country. I think there's a disconnect somewhere. If the federal government and relevant stakeholders fail to address it, the problem continues. But he doesn't tell us what that disconnect is. Now, if we can reach out and tackle everything and anyone trying to destabilize us as a people, just the way we are individually and collectively fighting COVID-19 daily, this land will be the envy of other nations. Mike Ayankwo, sacking of service chiefs is not the answer to the security challenges. What we need now is community and state police. There's no more room for grandstanding. We need legislation in this regard. Nigeria should, as a matter of priority, increase border security as well. Usman Banu Kanto, the resurgence of security challenges is worrisome. Multiple reasons are responsible. These include corruption, insubordination, and inadequate security personnel. Mutana Farouk, reduce the cost of governance, subsidize economic variables that trigger the cost of production in Nigeria, and plow more resources into productive ventures. Law Alpha C, it's unfortunate that the lofty records recorded by this administration in many sectors are being taken for granted by these merchants of death. Uchulo Sunday, security architecture should be given utmost priority and borders given modern surveillance. Joseph, thank you. Erute Wesley, we also appreciate you, along with Mendoz Musa. So those are the tweets we can accommodate, and on that note, we'd like to thank our three guests for being with us this morning. Of course, this is a never-ending subject matter. We do hope we'll be able to get on top of the situation and have a more peaceable environment. Major General John Enenche, Coordinator of Defense Media Operations, I delight having you this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for the privilege.
All right. We also would like to appreciate Major General Ahmed Tijani Jibrin, former Director of Military Intelligence. Always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Deep thanks also to Dr. Kabir Adamu, our regular security analyst. Is a security risk management expert. Dr. Kabir, you have a nice day.
Thank you, and you.
All right. Okay, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. We are